There you go.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah, we're live. Cool. So you screwed it up on Friday. You were supposed to be
I was
here.
like, what are we going to do? You're like, I don't know. He's not awake. I don't know what we're going to do.
I was like, well, I didn't want to wake him.
That's true.
So here we are, Monday.
It was,
The same day.
Yeah, that was my bad. I definitely overslept.
Yeah, so this episode is actually going to come out today, June 22nd. It's a Monday. It was supposed to be recorded Friday. That didn't happen. Things occurred.
Transpired.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, one of my mottos in undergrad was do today.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly. That's basically what happened.
I feel that.
So now we're here on Monday morning, day of. But we finally have you in. So for people that don't know, this is my brother, Mr. Richard Trevino, MD. Currently works in Chicago, Illinois at Rush University Medical Center. Graduate of UT Health San Antonio and also University of Texas at Austin. So
Hook 'em horns.
yeah, hook 'em horns. I'm also a UT graduate, as people know. Elijah here's
Bumming it.
we don't really care. But
No, we don't talk about that.
we don't
talk about that.
Yeah, you never walked the stage though. Why didn't you walk the stage?
I don't want anybody to know I went to that school.
I mean, it's not a bad school. It's not a bad school. I mean, people get degrees. I mean,
Everybody gets
work
to
there.
the point.
This was where?
St. Mary's.
St. Mary's.
Oh. Why did I think you went to Our Lady of the Lake?
That was
That was
Casas.
Cas.
Oh.
But
I
then
wasn't mixing y'all up.
No.
For some reason, that's where I thought you were.
but he failed out. So
Yeah. I don't think he's gonna. No one knows who that is. So we'll be okay.
we good.
Anyways, so yeah, welcome on to the show.
I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, this was a long time
Sure.
coming. We were actually thinking about zooming this whole freaking thing, and then
we need to figure that. We still need to figure that out.
yes, we do.
'Cause I got
but-
a buddy of mine. Well, the one that we put on the phone. We want him to talk about like being a collegiate athlete in college and stuff, but he lives in Omaha,
Yeah,
so we're trying to find a way to get him.
Omaha, big sports town.
big sports town,
Yeah.
and he was
NCAA baseball tournament.
he was big in baseball. He played at UTSA, so
Yeah, he's my
Division
roommate,
One.
junior college.
right. But yeah, we actually have you here in house at
Here.
the Elijah Studios
The Eli-
apartment. So here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, a long time in the making here. We actually were talking about bringing you on like 3 or 4 weeks ago,
Yeah,
or
it
even
was,
past that, like a month ago. I think.
It was challenging with everything happening for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even this trip was just kind of a serendipitous process because I ended up with a 10-day break in my last block of second year. So
Right.
the 7 days off I was allocated as my fourth vacation week of second year, and then I tacked on 3 extra days on top of it. So 10-day break, I decided that coming home would be a better decision than trying to take a leisure trip.
Nah.
And Father's Day weekend too.
That's
So
pretty-
that
Yeah, it
worked
all
out.
just kind of worked out.
Kill two
nicely.
birds with one stone
So,
there.
yeah,
Well,
we're-
that's I mean, yeah, you were able to come back on Father's Day, which is good.
So,
That's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. It's a beautiful thing. So yeah, you're off tomorrow. So glad we were able to get you in here. So I think what's most fitting about the fact that you're able to come in and talk with us was the idea of reducing stress, which is basically like the bottom level template of like the topic that we're talking about today. Obviously, we'll be hitting a whole bunch of different things, but yeah, reducing stress. Obviously, you're a doctor, so in Chicago during this whole pandemic, I mean, this whole issue that's been going on, and I mean, I can only imagine amongst the other issues of people going into the hospital right now in Chicago that, I mean, things must be pretty intense, and
Pretty
you must be
hectic.
pretty swarmed with
Yeah.
with all the sorts of things that are going on there. And so I think people would love to see and hear insight from you on how you've been able to maintain, your work-life balance, maintain a level head, get through with working in this scenario and the different issues that may be going on right now, especially since, this pandemic is going on right now. Like, you've been at work this whole time. You're a frontline worker.
Oh yeah.
You're there. You're a professional in the healthcare industry, and you're there. You're on the front lines. You're seeing things every day. So people, I think, would be very appreciative to know, what do you do? What is your common day-to-day routine look like for you? What is it like working in the hospital setting? When you come back home, what do you do to kind of relieve your stress? And what does your day look like?
Yeah, so it's been different for sure. I think that at the onset of the pandemic, a lot of us had questions about how things were going to look. Like,
Sure.
what was daily life going to evolve into, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because Illinois, and Chicago specifically, was one of the first locations to undergo a lockdown.
Yeah.
When things started getting dicey in Seattle, things started
Sure.
getting dicey in New York City.
Sure.
Yeah.
The government in Illinois, didn't want to take any chances with that, and so right off the bat, 10 days into March, they were like,
Lockdown.
we have to
I
call this.
remember Illinois was like one of the
Yeah.
first ones.
Yeah.
You texted me when like there's somebody freaking infected at Rush.
Yeah, I
It was, like,
remember the
one of
very,
the
very
first
first
one.
days. The
I
very
remember, I
first
gotta
day,
tell you.
they
We got
gave
a
us a
group.
system-wide email, and they were like, "Hey, we have our first confirmed COVID case in the Rush University System for Health," and it was a big deal. People felt all kinds of different ways about it.
Sure.
But so there were a lot of questions about how daily life was going to look. But I can recall very distinctly, like the very last place I went, before Chicago underwent the shelter-in-place order. Pasta Palazzo, fantastic.
Oh, love me some Pasta Palazzo. Yes.
And after that, it was no bars, no restaurants. It didn't take long for them to shut down the lakefront, for them to shut down the Riverwalk, the 606, which is a popular jogging and biking trail in Chicago.
Yeah.
Millennium Park.
They shut that down too. I thought.
Yeah.
So you weren't even allowed to go outside to like.
Well, you were allowed to go outside for like exercise purposes, but a lot of touristy locations in the city that
gotcha.
people visit,
Gotcha. Yeah.
they
Highly
nixed
populated.
that. So like,
Yeah.
parts of Grant Park, parts of Millennium Park, like where the Bean is.
Oh,
all of that.
I would
was-
assume that would be.
Yeah, all of that
immediately
was
shut
put on
shut that
lockdown,
down, yeah.
and
Basically anywhere that's highly populated.
yeah, highly populated areas,
Yeah.
places that people frequent.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the things that people were used to doing on a daily basis kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah.
And for a long time, it was basically just, go to work, come home. And that was kind of it. That was your
Yeah.
whole routine.
Right.
So you kind of had to settle into that.
Yeah.
But I was
feel
on my...
I feel like for you, sorry to interrupt, but I feel like for you, it seemed like not much has really changed because you were just going to work still, and you were. I mean, obviously with other people, doing essential positions, but especially yours, like you're pretty much doing the same thing every day. You're just doing your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to approach it with that mentality, but, the first thing that happened was I was pulled off of my pediatric ICU rotation, which was, supposed to be 4 weeks long.
Okay.
Into my third week, they wanted to staff the emergency department with extra people to have more hands on deck, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
makes
they
sense.
pulled me off of my pediatric ICU rotation and wanted to have, extra residents be available to cover the shifts there.
Right.
So that was kind of the first major change that happened. And actually, I have been in the Rush Emergency Department since that time.
Okay.
So
So you have not moved from that position.
Correct,
You're still
correct.
there.
Yes,
So I was
yes.
supposed to have a cardiac ICU rotation, but they actually had me keep working in the Rush Emergency Department so that it would still be adequately staffed with people.
Okay. And
Gotcha.
even after this break right now, you're going to go back into doing obviously.
That's correct. That's correct.
That area. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll still be in the Rush Emergency Department for another couple of months before I go back to Mount Sinai Hospital to do an off-site rotation there.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Cool.
and that's pretty rare. I'm guessing that you're more often than not at Rush University, and then
Yeah, so the curriculum varies year by year, but throughout second year there are a lot of off-site rotations with
And-
the idea to give us exposure to different
areas
type
of the
practice
hospital.
right.
environments.
And to be clear, like this, I mean, for people that don't know, that you are in your current residency program. This is not like legitimate, like practicing physician yet, but you're in your residency.
So I
program.
practice medicine under supervision of
Right.
attending physicians.
Yeah.
So I have a medical license and I utilize that and
Right.
practice medicine under the supervision of attending physicians,
Gotcha.
who I run cases by, have a discussion about plans of care and that kind of thing.
Nice.
But getting back to your initial question about stress relief, it's a lot of compartmentalization. That's something that I have placed an emphasis on since the time I was a medical student. And what I mean by that is being able to separate things at work and things outside of work into their own individual compartments. That's harder to do than what it sounds like. A lot of people have trouble with that. They bring the work home with them.
Yeah.
And in this field, it's sometimes hard to get that separation
Yeah,
because
yeah.
of the things you see on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like an inherent part of my job is dealing with people who might be having the worst day of their entire life,
Yeah.
right in front of your eyes.
I mean, yeah, and you're working through ICU. I'm sure that's.
oh yeah,
that's
we rotate through the ICU for sure.
insane.
We rotate through trauma. We rotate
Oh, yeah.
through L&D. We rotate through ortho, anesthesia. We do a lot of off-site stuff, so we see all these different kinds of environments.
Yeah.
But you might be seeing somebody on the worst day of their life, and
Yeah.
to you it may just be another patient,
Another day, yeah.
whose assessment and plan you have to come up with. But for that person, I mean, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
I'm
That's
sure
insane, yeah.
people out there have had family members or even have been in the hospital themselves and have
Yeah.
been a patient, and it's very anxiety provoking. So
And this is every single week.
This
for
is-
you.
yeah,
every
every
single
single day.
week, every single day, multiple
Yeah.
hours a day, you're dealing with
Jeez.
this. It's easy to fall into a route of having some compassion fatigue, but on the flip
Yeah.
side of that, separating that from your home life can sometimes be difficult if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see something or you're a part of something that's traumatic.
Yeah.
So, developing the skill set to kind of compartmentalize that, separate it, is super important for me for my own mental well-being.
Yeah.
Working out is a big part of my life. It's been a challenge not having a gym to work out at anywhere in Chicago.
Love to hear that you have fitness so prioritized.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I love.
I've always believed that if you prioritize something, you can make it a part of your life, no matter how crazy things get. And I've always prioritized going to the gym, working out. For me, that's my favorite thing to do when I get off of shift.
Awesome. And a lot of things that to kind of segue on that, but like I always talk about on this podcast how like fitness and health is just
the bottom line,
the bottom layer for every single other avenue in my life. Like once I got fitness down and health down, like every other avenue of my life ends up increasing positively.
Yeah, man, because it's more. Fitness is more than physical. Absolutely, it's more of a mental thing than.
And that's why that's why I got into the work that I'm doing now. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just a big part of my life, and when I'm at the gym, that's how I mentally disconnect from all of the things that I encounter on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like an escape, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely an escape.
Yeah.
And for me, it's more than just going and having a physical workout. It's like it really is like a mental and a spiritual type of process to me.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
I think that
awesome.
really is like the base layer of how I maintain my well-being. And so it's been a challenge these past 12 weeks not having that available.
Yeah.
So I've had to come up with alternative routines, like doing Insanity in my living room.
I was just about to ask you, what are some of the other things you've been doing at home?
Yeah, so like Insanity, which I am not a fan of.
Right. No one's so for people that don't know what Insanity is, what is Insanity?
So Insanity is it's basically a video-based at-home exercise program that encompasses high interval intensity training circuits, but they're like more prolonged, so you like actually work out at a high level of intensity for like 3 straight minutes.
Like 40 to 60 minutes total for the entire workout, right?
Right, but like every 3 to 4 minutes or so, you get maybe a 20 to 30 second break. So it's a lot of high intensity training.
Gotcha.
And then the entire circuit will last for like 40 minutes.
And it is all body weight, right?
It's all body weight based. It requires no equipment. Occasionally there are some... Hence the name Insanity. Occasionally there are some where you can use a yoga mat to help stabilize yourself, which I do sometimes, but other than that, it's all body weight.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for 12 weeks, and that's kind of been my, my exercise routine. But, it's been tough, though, not having a gym to be able to go to, so...
I think it's been tough on a lot of. I mean, we had to kind of compromise, but I mean,
it wasn't too much of a compromise for us. I mean, luckily enough, we could work at a gym, and we had it's all free weights. There's no machines other than the cable machine that I bought. But
but for normal people, I'm sure that was the same. Concept.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was a challenge, but phase 4 of the reopening of Chicago is happening this Friday, so I think they're going to give a trial run to a lot of businesses.
You think gyms will be opening?
I don't know that all gyms are going to be opening. I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis. There are some exercise facilities in Chicago that are going to do a trial run.
Smaller box gyms, I'm guessing, right?
Smaller box gyms. There's a gym that I recently purchased a membership to called Hotworks, and it's in Lincoln Park in Chicago, and basically their system is they do heated exercise areas.
Is it like biking or?
So they have different setups. They have like rowing, biking, ellipticals, and some of them are just yoga. But it's basically like a 10 by 10 space.
Gotcha.
That's like heated, and you're able to adjust the temperature outside of the room. And it's an app-based interface, so you book your time inside of that room in advance, and then once you book it, no one else can be in there. Only you can get in there.
That's pretty bad.
Did they make you clean that area, or do they have
They have cleaning materials available to you, and all of the sessions are done virtually.
Cool.
And it's been set up that way since prior to the pandemic. So they actually were set up to succeed in advance. So it's open 24 hours. They give you a specific code. You let yourself in whenever you want to go. There's no staff on site. All of the training sessions are virtual. Basically, you follow prompts from a pre-recorded video on screen.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool, man.
Cool.
That's interesting.
That's kind of. It sounds like Orange Theory, like a kind of.
Yeah, it has some
variation
similarities
of
to
that,
like Orange Theory.
Yeah.
So it's class-based training, but you're in the room by yourself. And you book the time ahead in advance.
Right.
And you can bring up to one other person with you who's part of your household, quote unquote, and you can work out with that person. But other than that, you're not in a crowded space. You're isolated. There's no staff in person, so it's actually set up to succeed while also implementing social distancing guidelines.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. You've heard of that workout mirror though, right? Remember when we were traveling in New York? They had like subways in the subways. They had like that exercise mirror. Like that's now an implemented thing where
you can
like,
buy that at Academy. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, you have like your own virtual personal trainer, basically. I mean, I guess similar to like what that box gym is like. So I guess like you're working out in front of like a mirror, but the mirror it has like
TV
has like a TV type integration with it.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know the specifics on it, but I'm just talking about.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about.
I think that's also a pretty cool option for people. But I mean, I don't know the exact price on it, but anyways,
you definitely had to get creative, with everything going on.
Sure.
Trying to keep up some sense of normalcy in your routines.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting phenomenon watching all these things kind of play out.
Even with my when I got interviewed for Kent's 5, the main topic was like, how do you, I mean, as a trainer, like, what are some of the things you do at home? And like one of the first exercises I posted, you remember, was with a backpack. So
I remember we were doing that. Yeah.
We were all filling our backpacks filled with like books and stuff, and just like doing like squats and RDLs, push-ups, like anything you could do to just add on some weight and keep some muscle mass.
You definitely had to get creative. And that's just something you had to make do with because it was what was available to you at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
what
were you gonna say?
I was gonna say people were going out and biking and buying running shoes.
Oh, dude, freaking Bike World was so packed.
Yeah,
I mean, even like every single time we passed Bike World over by the gym, the line was out there. I mean, other than like social distancing guidelines.
Even when I went to go buy one, I remember like when the pandemic first started, I was like, I'm gonna go get a bike. And I went to Academy, and they were like,
all gone.
None.
The whole
rack
aisle was
gone,
empty. So
it was like, geez, dude.
Yeah,
so people really they figured it out. I mean, they found other hobbies to do to stay active.
But I think like for you in your situation, even with like Insanity and working out from home, like just being consistent with that is tough.
Yeah.
And it sucks being at home. I mean, even with some of the clients I work with that just are working out at home, like one of them was just telling me like, oh my God, like I hate working out at home.
Boring,
it sucks,
man.
but I don't want to go to the gym either. So it's like, what do I do? And I mean, how do you get past that mental? I mean, even with everything that you're doing now, oh my God, like you're swarmed with work and doing those things. Like, how are you able to stick to such a consistent basis and doing things and exercising, even though it sucks? Like
it's not easy. It's not easy. It's like, most days I would wake up just dreading that I had to do Insanity that day.
It's like the intro, come on, let's go. It's like you have that like ingrained in your mind.
Yep. I turn on my PlayStation 3 that my dad bought me in 2008, and I have the videos saved on there, and it's just you hit that X button to start the video, and
you're just like,
and you're just like, here we go again, and you start that intro warm up where you start jogging it out, jog it out,
just like,
jog it out. You gotta keep the core tight.
And you see the entire like time period on the top. It's like 50 minutes. Like,
you're like, how am I literally gonna do this for almost an hour? So it was not easy for sure, having to maintain that consistency and finding the motivation to do it because like who else is there to motivate you? Nobody. It's you. Yeah. It's you have to motivate yourself to do it, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a you versus you battle, and we bring that up a lot.
Oh yeah, a lot of it's just mental. It's all
mental.
So I mean, my specific motivation was like not wanting to fall into a rut. Or
I mean, you've been exercising past 8 to 9 years consistently, like weightlifting and exercising for a very long time.
Long time.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't like. I mean, obviously, you're up to the point now where you know what, like I got to do this. Like I've been doing it for so long. Why would I all of a sudden stop?
That's exactly right. I had to have something, and for me, that was just the outlet that I had available to me, and so that's what I had to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. Another really good point you bring up is the fact that, or the idea that people bring their work back at home with them, and on the podcast particularly, we end up bringing up the idea that specifically like working from home. We only really talk about desk jobs and corporate jobs and working from home and how that ability to work from home and doing all these things from home is like something that should be available for people. Right. But we don't really get the idea of people having to work hands-on like you. So that availability of being able to work from home is not there. You have to go into the office, the hospital, and work hands-on. You don't have that ability to work from home and do your job from home. I mean, there may be like some forms to fill out, I guess, and I really don't know, but I guess touch on the idea that like I have to go and work in person. I'm hands-on. Everybody else gets the ability to work from home. Like, how do you feel having to work in the hospital now, especially since like other people are getting the opportunity to work from home? Like, does that have any effect towards like going into work for you, or like?
So yeah, it does actually. I'm actually grateful that I'm able to go into work.
Wow.
So I don't view it as a drawback that I don't have the ability to work from home because, while my job inherently eschews mundanity and having a set routine because my schedule is just so variable all the time. We work all these different shifts. 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Those are all different start times for shifts that we work. But getting to leave my house and go and be productive and do something, I actually really enjoy that.
Okay.
And so I've been grateful for the opportunity to actually still be able to go and work in person.
To do something.
And not only that, but it gives me the opportunity to like interact with people.
Yeah.
So I can
That's a good point.
socialize people with
That's a
people
good
that I
point.
work with. You know, I can ask them how their day is going.
Yeah.
You know, how have things been for you during this pandemic? Like, how is your family doing?
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
getting those face-to-face interactions is actually, you know, it's kind of nice.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good for your mental health.
Yeah,
too, that
it's
you're
very,
talking
very
to
good
people.
for mental health, and it's very good for compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
Physically leaving my home and going to the hospital to work,
Mm-hmm.
it creates a physical but also a mental distance between
Yeah.
those two entities.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking to you about. It's hard for people, especially when we work from home, man. Like, the work comes home and it's like it meshes and there's no separation.
Right.
And especially with like our boss, how he handles it, there's no
Mhm.
separation. He'll call you at all hours of the day, at all times, whether you're off, whether you're not off.
Yeah.
And that screws up a lot of shit.
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't give you that kind of like mental boundary of like, I'm going over there and you can leave it there.
compartmentalization.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
it's
exactly
it's not,
right.
it's
And,
non-existent
yeah, it's
within the work that.
non-existent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've talked to so
agree.
many people who have been confined to their home, you know, with everything
Mm-hmm.
going on, and their separation is literally, you know, between the table and the couch, and that's
Yeah.
the only separation they
insane.
get.
That can be
They
bad.
may not even leave their house for days on end, except when they need to go grocery shopping
Yeah.
or something like that, or take a walk outside.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm actually really grateful for the ability to physically go somewhere
Yeah.
and have my work be physically separated from
But-
my home life.
Let me ask you this: does that ability to interact with other people, is that basically like push the idea that you're surrounded by people who have this illness? Like, which one do you kind of weigh? Like, does it overweigh the fact that like you're going to be exposed to like this illness and these people?
So working in the field that I work in, inherently you're taking the risk, right? Like,
Yeah.
just by the very nature of what kind of work you do, what your work consists of, the fact that it is hands-on, the fact that you have to do these encounters in person, face-to-face.
Mm-hmm.
So basically you just have to be cognizant of that and take the appropriate precautions. And we've been fortunate that, you know, our hospital system is very well endowed and we're able to provide the necessary protective equipment that our workers need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's never been a question of, you know, whether we are going to have a deficit of equipment. We've actually been pretty okay from the onset, and so they provided us with the things we need. So just being cognizant of, you know, patients who have influenza-like symptoms, people who come in with fever, cough, shortness of breath, or even vague stuff, muscle aches, fatigue, loss of appetite.
Yeah, you just gotta. You
really got to approach it like every patient you see could potentially be infected.
That's what I'm saying.
And
And
so,
that's a risk I mean, you have to take that every day, even before this all happened. It's a
yeah,
risk you take.
you know, you have to take that risk in order to adequately provide the care that you need to provide.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, wearing your mask, wearing your goggles, putting on your gown and gloves, you know, donning and doffing the equipment properly. You know, they provide us with formalized training on these procedures so that we can do this stuff correctly and reduce the risk of transmission.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this brings up so kind of sidetracking. Like we went to Austin the other day, and God, this is terrible. So we were at this brewery. It was Zilker Brewing Company, and my brother and I were sitting on one end of the table, and my girlfriend was sitting on the other, and she was facing me, and we were both facing the other way, so we could see everything. There was this individual who just didn't look like she was all there, basically, like just non-cognizant of what's going on.
Yeah.
And she was just coughing and like I looked at her and her eyeballs were going in different directions, and like she had teeth missing, and I leaned over to Rick and I was like, what do you think is going on? He was like, well, we actually experience a fair amount of patients that look like this that come in on a daily, and like this lady was just like coughing and like vomiting on herself and like spitting on herself, and he was like yeah, she probably has COVID. Like, oh no.
So that's a perfect example of, you know,
Yeah.
somebody you might encounter either inside or outside of the practice environment that could potentially be high risk, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's something to be cognizant of, right?
Yeah.
So maintaining, you know, proper standards with that kind of stuff going on is important.
Yeah.
Right? This is exactly the problem. This
Right.
is exactly what we're seeing. And it is problematic. And, you know, one thing I've learned doing this job is that people's lives are complicated, right? We get these one-off encounters from 10 to 15 minutes, depending on what's going on with the person, where you talk to them, try and address their concerns, trying to understand their underlying motivation for coming to you today, because everybody has an underlying motivation for coming. They have a concern that they want addressed. They have something they want explained to them. They need to be educated about something, and you're there, right? You have limited resources, limited time, and you have to like come up with your assessment kind of from scratch. That's the fun part of the job, right? We get to make decisions. But people's lives are complicated.
Yeah.
Like, you might think you know what's going on with somebody, but really you have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea what that person's
It's kind of
been
weird
through.
to think. Like, you really have to, like, I mean, can you even at that point place yourself in their shoes? Like,
It can be hard to empathize, right?
Right.
You don't know what this person's going
Yeah.
through. Like, you know, this person might be going through financial difficulties. You know, they may have just lost a loved one.
Yeah.
You have no clue what's going on, like, you know,
Yeah.
up in here, right?
Yeah.
You don't know. So that's why you really have to try and be empathetic as best as you can, because you just don't know what's happening with this person, right?
Yeah.
This person came to you because they have a need, and you have to address that need, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're all
That's
quick
scary.
to ascribe judgments to people sometimes without really knowing what's going on
Is
with
it
them.
is it hard to stay empathetic when you have people that are pretty unpleasant to deal with?
Yeah,
How do you-
absolutely.
I would say that's pretty tough to
Absolutely.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be very hard, but at the same
You
time,
have to,
you know,
you have
these
to.
are human beings, right?
Yeah.
You know, I try and ask myself, what is the reason that this person is displaying, you know, this particular type of behavior, or you know, why are they engaging in this particular discussion? I try and understand that, and sometimes you
I
just
feel
can't
like
come
they
up
don't
with
even, like, even for people that may be in medical school right now, or who are pre-med and undergrad, like, do they teach you to be empathetic in school towards these people and understand,
Kinda like
or is that something that
conflict resolution, more or less, right? I mean,
So, you know, these are discussions that get had. We all have, you know, lectures and courses on humanism and
Right.
and medicine and behavior and society and all of
Sure.
these things and how they interrelate. So they do try and implement it into the curriculum. You know, it's not all just anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, pathology.
Yeah.
They do try and implement a humanistic aspect into it,
Right.
because a lot of medicine is, you know, revolved around humanism.
Sure.
If not, you know, the main focus of practicing medicine. It's not only a science, it's also an art.
yeah.
So, but there are things that are difficult to teach, right? Or things that are not written into the
There's
textbooks.
some
Things
stuff
are
that
not.
you can't teach. You
Yeah.
can't really teach that because
Yeah.
it's so variable. It
That's true.
varies.
Yeah,
to
these are
every
things that are
situation,
just
yeah.
experiential. You just
Yeah.
have to learn by.
But I'm sure they
encountering
tell you,
them.
like, oh, well, you know, as a doctor, you gotta understand, like, here's a heads up, like, this is what it's like, or anything of that nature, like.
Yeah, I mean, people do try and, you know, give you a preview of what the kinds of things that you're going to encounter are.
Yeah.
But like working in the emergency department, sometimes you just don't
You
know.
just see a whole bunch of different.
Yeah, you just don't know what's going to walk in. You have no
And I
idea.
think that's where you get the
yeah, that's
that's where you get the
adrenaline.
money, man. That's where you get that. That's where that pay is coming from. Like,
Yeah,
that,
dude.
no one will ever be able to understand what that's like.
Yeah, it's a
You can rehearse it over and over again, but when you have to sit down and tell a person that their family member has died,
yeah. I can't.
That's
man.
hard.
That's,
That
Or
is
making
hard.
split-second decisions for people that may need a certain.
yeah. They
you know-
can't make that decision for themselves, and you're having to make it for
Sure.
them on the
Yeah.
spot.
I mean, I can't even imagine. I
Yeah,
can't even
I'll
imagine.
never forget the first time I had to tell a wife that her husband passed away, and they had been married for 50 years, you know?
Jeez.
Oh my god,
And
dude.
you're meeting this person for like the first time
first
ever,
time
and
ever,
you
yeah.
have to break that news to them.
My god.
Like, that's hard.
That's tough.
You can rehearse that all you want in front of the mirror, and you can practice that in a simulated case, but like once
but
you
then-
get in that
yeah.
real situation, it's not easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is just insane.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so to kind of lift up that depression, try to get out of there.
You want
So
to talk about the coin dozer?
the coin dozer. Yeah. So
lighten the mood.
to lighten the mood a little bit. So obviously, you're from San Antonio, Texas. You've moved up to Chicago to fulfill your residency program. I guess people want to get an idea of like what it was like actually moving into a different city, coming from medical school and or even going through medical school in undergrad. But like your process of moving to Chicago and going through that whole that whole process of moving literally everything, all your stuff, all your gear, your car, whatever. Like, how did you go through with like moving and finding places to live and just going through that whole process of just like basically uprooting your life here in San Antonio and going to Chicago? What was that like for you?
It was a big challenge for sure. You kind of have to start from scratch when you go to a new place that you don't really know that many people. I probably
Yeah.
knew a single-digit number of people when I moved to Chicago, maybe like 5 people.
Yeah.
I had a few that trickled up there from my medical school or just people that I had met on these random one-off encounters that I just
Right.
knew who happened to be in the area.
Yeah.
But I got a sense of what Chicago was like when I did my visiting student rotation. So when you go into emergency medicine, you have to do these away rotations, as they're called, where you rotate at a facility outside of your own educational institution and
Right.
rotate somewhere else so you can get a sense of what other programs are like, and they can get a sense of what you're like as a
Yeah.
provider.
Sure.
And so I rotated at Rush as a medical student in 2017 in October, and so I lived in Chicago for 4 weeks and got a sense of how the city works and everything like that, the geography, the layout, the culture.
So
and
you weren't
decided
super blindsided when you went up there. Then,
exactly,
right? Yeah.
exactly. I had a decent idea of what I was getting myself into, and so it was a challenge though, right? Because you have to move everything. You have to decide: am I going to hire movers? Am I going to drive? Am I going to ship my car? All these little logistical details come into play that you might not think of initially.
That's crazy.
So a lot of that was challenging. It's obviously very expensive. There's a lot of expenses that come into moving across the
God, I
country.
can only imagine.
Setting up your internet, setting up all your utilities, changing your address, all of this stuff comes up, and it seems like every single day new things come up that you didn't
even
anticipate.
know about it.
Yeah, and you have to address those things. So
Yeah.
it's a challenge for sure. And then you might not know the geography as well, all the different neighborhoods. Chicago has 300 different distinct neighborhoods that are all culturally and socioeconomically distinct from one another, and so learning that layout and kind of how you want your lifestyle to be, all of that stuff was definitely a learning experience.
So you just basically just it wasn't even more so researching and learning these things, but just
You got to do
going
it.
there
You got to
and
figure
just
it out.
freaking doing it.
Yeah,
man.
you really got to hit the ground running, and
Yeah.
and then on top of
It's
that,
nuts.
starting a whole new part of your life. Going from being a student to now being a resident. You have a
different,
lot of responsibility
not
that
the
you didn't
same,
have
yeah.
before.
Yeah.
It's terrifying, honestly.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of responsibility just dumped on your plate, really.
Yeah. How
for
old were
sure.
you when you started residency?
I would have been 26.
Jeez, that's young, man.
Yeah.
That is just so young.
dude.
Yeah.
Just crazy. It's just
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
27
actually, 27. And then
That's
I
crazy.
turned 28 my intern year,
Okay.
because that would have been 2018. So
No way, dude. I couldn't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah,
I
man, a
couldn't
lot
do
of
it.
people wouldn't be able to do it.
That's
I mean,
tough, dude.
It's
That's a
tough.
tough
It was a
job.
challenge.
Even just learning where to live and just I guess the style of housing there is just so different.
It
You
is
don't know
very
what
different.
You don't know what
Yeah.
looks nice or what's bad.
Yeah.
I
and,
mean, it's like moving anywhere that you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Estrada moving to Omaha from Corpus. It's what the
Yeah.
that's a wild thing to do, man.
Yeah.
It's across the country.
Yeah, and the infrastructure in
Yeah.
Chicago is just so different than basically anywhere that I've ever been or lived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't have houses or apartment complexes like
Yeah.
we do here in San Antonio.
It's not really suburban.
No,
It's,
it's a lot of
I like
walk-ups.
I like the way
flats.
I like the way you put it. It's a very vertically built city
Yeah,
because
for
there's
sure.
no more horizontal
Yeah, for
space.
sure.
Yeah.
5 miles in San Antonio is like my house to HEB, but 5 miles in Chicago traverses thousands and thousands of people in all of these different neighborhoods and
nuts.
intersecting
Crazy.
streets.
Just like New
Yeah.
York, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah.
It's massive, and it's just all of the different little districts. Even between the smack dab middle of downtown and Rush, you pass through 12 different neighborhoods, and it's really not that far of a physical distance. It's less than 3 miles.
That's wild. I didn't think about it that way. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
man. I mean, these are things that you don't really think of when you think about where you want to go. You see I guess from my eyes, I see oh my god, it's a beautiful city, it's Chicago, and then on the flip side, you're oh my god, here's I mean, Chicago is known for really bad crime, and where do I live, and I need to do these things, and
Yeah.
the everything is just so different. It's not
just a completely
being in
different
Texas
lifestyle, yeah.
anymore. It's
Yeah.
somewhere else. It's somewhere far away. Not to mention you're moving away from friends, you're moving away from family, and you got to kind of start your own little network of people there.
Yeah, which I have, and I've met so many interesting people in Chicago. There's not a single day that goes by that I regret doing that. I think it was definitely the right decision. Given the chance 100 times, I would choose to do it the same way. I would go to my program, I would go to Rush. I really think it's a great fit. I would not have done it differently. I think that this was the right choice for sure, because a lot of Texans and people from San Antonio specifically just never ever leave.
Yeah.
And I did not want to fall into that same rut. As much as I love it here and I'm proud to be from here, I'm born and raised here. San Antonio is definitely my heart and soul, but I did not want to be one of those people who just never experiences something different. I really wanted to get out there and figure out, how things work in a different place. And I think that that's been beneficial for personal and professional growth for sure.
Yeah. I told you before, I wouldn't mind moving out to maybe even Chicago or Denver to experience some sort of an internship amongst strength and conditioning, a program of some sorts, or I want to experience what it's like living out of Texas, and obviously a small part of me moving to Austin for just undergrad for my 2 years at UT, I wanted to experience that. What was it like living on my own on a different city with no family members around, no friends around? I mean,
It's definitely a growing, man. Even when I went to Lufkin for 2 years, I mean,
that's another.
Lufkin
was
that's a
freaking
big,
far.
and that's a big difference from even this,
Hell yeah.
because that was nothing. There's
Yeah,
nothing out
with
there.
it.
But I mean, it helped me grow as a person, man.
Sure.
Living by yourself and being away from your parents, even if no matter how old you are.
All the responsibilities on you.
It's on you. It's all. There's nobody there to fall back on.
Yeah.
You're by yourself. Yeah.
And so I tell people that I meet, I tell my friends, if you get the chance to try something different, it's worth your time. I've talked to people who have lived and worked in San Antonio their whole lives, and I tell them, like, there's a lot of stuff out there, you know?
Yeah.
And it puts things into perspective for sure. Like, you know, you'd really be surprised the things that you take for granted when you
always
somewhere
bring
different.
you always bring that up. Like I think the first thing I think of, and this is just for me, I think of parking. Parking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Parking is difficult to say the least in Chicago. I mean, it's not like the level of like New York, but like in Chicago, there's not like big parking lots like there are here in San Antonio. If you're going to the store, you're lucky if that store has its own parking lot. It's street parking for the most part.
I was gonna say for like normally people walk around, right?
A lot of people walk.
City, right?
You know, not everybody
Public
has
transit.
a car.
Yeah.
People take the L train. They take the Metra in and out of the suburbs.
I mean, it's like when I went to New York, we never got a car. It was always walk, train, or taxi. That's why I was like,
That's what
do
everybody
you
did.
even need a car?
Yeah,
For stuff
in
like
a big
that? I
city
mean,
like
it's
that, you know,
you
a
don't
lot of
even-
people get by without one.
Yeah, you
For
don't
me,
need
I'm a
one.
very practical person, and because I have rotations at so many different sites, like I needed to have my car with me.
Yeah.
You know, one of my rotations is in Aurora, Illinois, which is 40 miles outside of Chicago. So I had to have my car in order to commute back
to get
and
there.
forth.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people do live and work in Chicago with no vehicle.
Yeah.
They walk, they take public transportation, they Uber and Lyft, and that's just kind of how it is. But yeah, the parking is difficult. You know, the traffic situation, it's hard sometimes getting from point A to point B.
Yeah.
You have to implement that into your time commitments for your day. you know?
Sure. Yeah.
That's a different living because I mean you don't think about that
yeah.
here unless we're gonna go like bar hop or
And
something.
people, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a
you just
very
drive
good point.
everywhere.
I also think like, you know, given the circumstances of how much more expensive it is to live in those cities, you also have to think about, well, people aren't paying for cars, they're not paying for gas, they're not paying for maintenance on vehicles. Like, it becomes a lot more doable in that you know situation because hey, you're not paying for other extraneous things that typically you wouldn't think to pay for it.
Yeah, but then of course cost of living is a little bit more up there.
That's what I'm saying though. That you're able to afford, like you see a $2,000 per month apartment or condo in Chicago, you're like, holy crap, I could never do it. But like, think about these people's situations.
Yeah.
You know, they don't got cars to pay for typically. Like they're taking public transit. They don't have maintenance or any other issues they're paying for.
Yeah.
So they can afford those things because that monthly payment of a car ends up going towards like rent.
Yeah, the way I think about it is a reallocation of funds. You know,
it's just a different.
You reallocate it to different aspects of your life because you know it's just a different way of living. The culture is different.
Yeah.
You know, people put emphasis on different things. And you know, one of my attendings, you know, great guy, I love working with him. He lives a few blocks away from me in River North Chicago. And one day, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, he's like, "I'm just gonna get rid of my car. It's a hassle.
Yeah.
It's a burden.
Yep.
I'm paying for insurance. I'm paying for gas.
another thing.
I'm paying for parking.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
paying for maintenance. I'm paying for
That
body work
adds
because
up.
people are always, you know,
hitting cars. Yeah.
you know, fender
Door
bendering
dinger,
and like
yeah.
if
It
you're
ends
parking
up-
on the street, people are gonna hit you.
Yeah.
It ends up being tens of thousands
Oh
of
yeah.
dollars per
And
year.
one day he's
in
like,
expenses.
I'm done with that.
No
And you know,
way.
he's a full time, you know, attending physician at an academic institution. He could definitely afford to have a car if he wanted to, but for him, it was just not worth the hassle
Just
and
not worth
heartache.
having it,
So
yeah.
he just Ubers every single day to and from his shift. And
Wow.
he's like, that's the best decision I've ever made in my life was getting rid of my car.
Yeah, it's crazy. You see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just a completely different style of living.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
even that in and of itself is like, I feel like is very applicable to like reducing stress overall for someone like that, like with a job. Like, imagine, like, for Chicago example, like, it's freaking cold up there. So, there's issues with your car during wintertime.
Yeah.
I mean, it freezes over. You can't open
Snow,
up your
yeah,
freaking
it's
door.
all-
You have to scrape ice off like your window.
Yeah,
Like,
and I'll tell you now, it is a commodity to have a covered, protected parking space in Chicago.
Yeah.
If you were to
gotta
purchase
have
a
some
piece,
good money for that.
if you were to
man.
purchase a piece of real estate in Chicago with a private, protected square that
Be a
you can place your
freaking
car on,
millionaire, man.
the value of that piece of ground for you to put your car on is about $30,000 a year.
That is nuts.
And we're talking about
Just a cover.
we're talking about a space with nothing on it that you can place your car on top of. $30,000 a year would be the estimated value of that piece of
Nuts.
property, and it's even more the closer you are to downtown.
Nuts.
Fucking
So it is
insane, dude.
definitely a commodity to have that.
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
people who do have cars, who live in the neighborhoods, people who live in Wicker Park, Bucktown, Logan Square, there's no parking garages there.
Yeah.
You're parking on the street. If you're parking on the street, you have to deal with like the weather. This is like a big factor, right?
Yeah.
You know, one of the best things that people invest in Chicago is a remote start because you can start defrosting your car while you're like getting dressed in your apartment. And by the time you're ready to go and drive to work, your car's defrosted, right?
Yeah.
You got to let your engine warm up. I mean, sometimes it's like negative 10 degrees outside, right? You can't just start your car and drive
take
off.
off,
It
yeah,
doesn't
you
work
can't.
that way.
You got to wake up like hours in advance just
Yeah.
to turn your car on
Yep.
to defrost.
You got to scrape the ice off your windshield. You got to make sure your mirrors have good visibility.
Yeah, they're
You
functioning.
got to make sure there's air in your tires. You got to make sure you have antifreeze. You all these things you got to consider.
Nuts, dude.
Things that you don't have a problem with here in San Antonio are actually big factors that you have to consider in Chicago and implement them into your daily routine.
Yeah.
What about if you park in an alley? If you have a garage and you park in an alley, like the city plows do not scrape the ice or snow out of an alley. You might have to dig it out yourself. You might have to wake up 45 minutes early so you can get the shovel and dig a pathway out of your alley so you can drive out of it.
Jeez.
That's wild, bro.
It's nuts. Like, that just seems so stressful to me.
It just seems like, oh my God, it's too much.
It's way too much.
So much.
Which is why it makes sense where you're just getting rid of your car at that point.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
It's just it adds to the list of things that you just never thought of that you can't. It's hard to predict that those are going to be issues until you encounter them. Like, man, I never predicted this was going to be an issue. Having to get all weather tires, right? Like the tires I had on my car when I moved to Chicago are not adequate to drive in those conditions at all. So I had to go to the Discount Tire in Countryside, Illinois, because there's not a Discount Tire in Chicago, and get tires that were suitable for those conditions.
Wow. That's crazy, dude.
I mean, just
it's just an entire lifestyle
it's in a different
change.
Yeah, it's like you're living on a different planet almost. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, I felt like that on more than one occasion.
Oh yeah.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah, so, there's also no Whataburger, which is also
of course the South, buddy. Okay, so I also liked how you talked about earlier, like this all these things you bring up are just so very stressful to you, and I mean they can be very stressful things at least. I mean, other than fitness and exercise, what are some of the other things? Like you talked about, like meditating. I mean, it seems like so simple, like only 5 minutes of meditating a night. But like you say, it works. Like it works for you. So like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I mean, there's different ways you can go about it. They actually have apps you can use. You can use Calm or Headspace, and these are apps.
Expensive. Man.
I use Headspace. It's like $12 a month.
So yeah, these are apps you can subscribe to on your phone if that's something that you're really interested in getting into and you're willing to spend the money on that. And you think it's worthwhile. And it can contribute to some beneficial aspects of your life. Sure, by all means, I would encourage that. But there's also free stuff on YouTube you can use.
Sure.
One of my favorite things is the body scan. If you just go on YouTube and search body scan in the search bar, hit enter, and you'll find a bunch of free videos that are guided meditations that use this body scan technique. Yeah. And so what that consists of is potentially isolating yourself from whatever distractions. Some people like to sit in a chair. Some people like to sit on their couch. Some people like to just lay in bed. And you can do this with either your eyes closed or with your eyes open. And you basically just allocate a set amount of time to focusing on different parts of your body. Your neck, your shoulders, your back, your chest, your heartbeat, your breathing, your abdomen, your muscles, your extremities. And you just spend a little bit of time focusing on each part of your body. And you can do it either head to toe, you can go from the feet up, from inside out, whatever way you want to do it, whatever works for you. And it can be as quick as like 5 minutes, or it can be longer. You can do it for like 10 or even 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's helpful, to just kind of disconnect a little bit. And, I like to do it before I go to bed, and sometimes it helps me fall asleep easier.
Yeah.
Another technique that I've encountered that I think is worthwhile to try is box breathing. And so what that consists of is 3 different phases. One of them is inhalation, the second one is holding, and the third one would be exhalation. And you hold each one for about 4 seconds. So breathe in for about 4 seconds, then hold it for about 4 seconds, and then exhale for about 4 seconds, and repeat that process for however much time you feel like you need.
And you do that like before bed, or do you do that throughout the day?
Yeah. You can do that before bed. You can do it right when you wake up.
Okay.
You can do it if you're feeling stressed or anxious, or if you're having trouble getting your mind off of something. It's just a good way to kind of reset. Give your body and mind a hard reset, right? But there's all different kinds of techniques on there. I mean, you can really get into the weeds on this. Some people light candles. Some people perform yoga. People do different things to help meditate and disconnect. So,
I think another thing that I kind of want to bring up as we start to get closer to our time, we were talking about in the car, just like your usage of your financials, and I think people would love to hear. I'd love to hear, but I think when we talk about financials and things of that nature, for you, like you love to go out and you love to travel, you love to have friends with drinks, or have drinks with friends.
Friends with drinks, bro.
Have drinks with friends.
I do have a lot of friends with drinks.
Yeah, that too. So have drinks with friends. And I think about it, I'm like, well, look at what you're doing now, right? I mean, obviously, like you're going to become like a full-on attending physician someday. out of residency.
God willing.
God willing, yes. You know, having more money later on, but I think that people also think like it's not so much about hoarding money and saving money and not doing anything, but also like giving yourself that time to spend some money and travel and have those drinks with friends, because it relieves your stress. Like you enjoy that. It's part of like what you enjoy doing. You know, you want to be able to network with other people as well as just grab a drink with friends and go out to eat or whatever it may be. And so I feel like, you know, our situations are very different in the sense that like, hey, like I love like saving money. I'm going to cook at home whenever I can. But on the flip side, like you're working, you know, crazy hours and during the weekends and, you know, all this, especially right now during this pandemic and all the different gang related violence in Chicago. But like at the end of it, like you go out and spend your money on things that give your life like some sort of fulfillment. I mean, like just happiness and stress relief. And so I think people should be more open to understanding, like, yeah, you may be spending more money here and there, but like, you know, it's all for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. You know, this is kind of cliche, but I've always believed that spending money on experiences is way more worthwhile than spending money on like physical items.
Yeah.
And for me, like food and drink and like, you know, exploring and that kind of thing, for me, those are experiences.
Yeah.
You know, trying a new restaurant, trying a new bar, which the bar and restaurant scene in Chicago is obviously phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
There's just infinitely many places that you could try. You know, you could live there your whole life and go to 3 different places every single day and barely scratch the surface.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those things do give fulfillment to me. And so that's part of what contributes to my happiness and how I, you know, like to enjoy my free time being outside of work. So I think that's how I kind of rationalize it and justify it. So
yeah, it's like a hobby for you.
Yeah,
I totally get that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like with you and movies and video games, and for me, like it's buying like workout equipment and like the biking gear.
Yeah.
You know, I like spending a good amount of money on that and using that for me, you know. And so I feel like being able to spend money on things you really enjoy, just kind of saving frivolously on other things you don't really care about, really helps with, you know, things.
I mean, it's just
having more fulfillment.
Yeah, it's like spending money on things that bring you value rather than.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You know, allocating, you know, those funds, you know, you can even create a budget and allocate funds for like recreation and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, so I think that that's important. I think it contributes to my mental and physical well-being, and I just take a lot of enjoyment in that, and so it's definitely worthwhile for sure. Especially living somewhere like Chicago where you can explore just all of these different places and have those different experiences. And it's also how I feel like I connect with people too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
How I interact
definitely.
with people, find out about their lives and stuff like that. I think it's just super interesting. So
Yeah, get some more perspective on people and how they live, and gives you, I think, like overall being able to meet tons of new people, like it gives you insight into like how other people live and just how they interact with others, and you know, just their backgrounds and ethnicities and religions and all that sort of thing. As you continue to travel elsewhere in the world, like you have as well, like you're able to see like that style of living, and I think that's an investment in and of itself. So
yeah, you know, I really think travel and experiences like that change you as a person, right? Because you know, my first major international trip was to Spain when I was a senior medical student, right about to graduate, and I was only there for 7 days, but when I came back, I felt like a totally different person.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wow, you know, this is like a whole different world. People live so differently. Their mentality is so different than what we're used to here in the United States that it's like, wow, you know, the world is a lot bigger than what I was led to believe growing up, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, like getting those experiences is just like super invaluable, you know, to your development as a person. So, so, you know, I love travel. I love experiencing those kinds of things, new people, culture, languages, food, you know, just seeing how people live in different places like that. I think it's amazing. So
it's just not playing with the coin dozer, bro.
Yeah, you know, playing with the coin dozer.
It's not just the coin dozer. It's
not just the coin dozer.
Okay, so we're coming close to our time. I want to leave it to you. I mean, obviously we've gone through a lot, but what are some of the recommendations that you have for people that might be in the same position for you, or not the same position, but like people planning on relocating or moving for a job or going through a lot of school like you have? Like, I mean, tons of people don't really go through a lot of school like you have, and I mean, what are some of the things that you would ultimately recommend for these people that are looking to maybe do something like you are, or get into the medical field, or any of those things? Like, what are some of the things that you would?
So I think the beauty of it is that my particular field, being medicine and being emergency medicine, things have a finite time. For example, medical school has a start date and it has an end date. Residency has a start date and it has an end date. my start date was July 1st, 2018. My end date is June 30th, 2021. I know those dates in advance.
Great.
This is a finite set period of time. So I knew that, leaving to a new location and starting over was going to be from this time to that time. And for me, that helped mentally sort of quantify it,
Sure.
so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, choosing to go into a field that has quantifiable things like that can open you up to doing something new, because I think that human nature is to sort of, maintain a fear of like uncertainty, not knowing, if I leave, will I be able to come back?
We just talked about that.
Not knowing, where you're going to be in 5 years is like, that's
scary.
challenging. That's
Scary.
challenging. A lot of people have trouble wrapping their head around that. And so for me, I was like, when am I going to have a chance to do something like this, to go and live and work in a whole nother city, start over from scratch and really like build something up. And so that helped me rationalize it, knowing that it was going to start at this time and end at that time.
And I think that really plays a really big thing, because it's ultimately your mindset. You created that mindset for yourself to make yourself think more positively than negatively. Like,
right.
Man, you could just have the mindset, well, I could just stay here. I know everything here. I know the city. I'm comfortable here. That's it. But with you, like, you created the mindset that, like, look, I'm going to start someplace new. I'm going to try this out and be in a different city and learn what it's like to live in this city. And I think I'm going to really benefit from that. Yeah. And I think that overall mindset for you, like putting yourself in a position of like positivity, like you created that mindset for yourself. I think if people are able to create those mindsets for themselves, they could really open up their minds into doing new things that they're not typically comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And there's just so much out there that you can learn and experience. And I'll tell you now, like, if you have the chance to get out and do something different, something that's outside of your comfort zone, outside of this little bubble that you've been existing in your whole life, you need to take that chance.
Yeah.
You have to do that. And I mean, it's going to be so invaluable to your development as a person, as a human being.
Sure. You
will change in ways you never thought possible.
Yeah.
There are some days that I wake up and I'm still learning and experiencing new things. And I'm like, man, if I hadn't have done this, like I would have never had these opportunities.
Oh, definitely.
So, like I said, not a single day goes by where I regret the decision that I made to do this. I think it's been the best decision I've ever made in my life.
That's awesome.
Was to just start something brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing going back to mindset is like a lot of people don't have they don't want to take that risk, because that's a big risk to shift your life and like leave like where you're comfortable, and people don't want to do that, man.
Yeah.
Especially like restarting somewhere else after they've built somewhat like a foundation here, they don't want to leave.
Sure.
Yeah, just kind of playing like devil's advocate for you.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's very, very hard. But I do think like it's just with starting anything, like even so small as to eating a healthier meal, or just like cooking something, or
it's a big risk, man.
Or cleaning your apartment. Like I think something all the way from that small to that big of moving out, like it starts with where your mind's
at. It seems so overwhelming that people don't. They're like, it's just too much.
Yeah, and people, and that's an effect of people who you hang out with too.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about that before. Just like who you hang out with, like you're just your friends. Like that can have a total effect on how you're able to think about moving to a completely different state and starting something new. Like that in itself, like people can tell you, like, oh no, well, Chicago, the taxes are bad in Chicago. There's gunshots and people are getting shot by guns all the time in Chicago. People are dying, like. You know, like people can totally, like, I'm sure you probably were told that before, like, tried to convince you not to go because of those reasons. But like, ultimately, it's up to you. Like, how can you make the best of your situation and like tune out everybody else that's spewing negativity on your life and what you want to do, and kind of put yourself in a positive mindset. Like, it's all there.
It's all in your
head.
It's
it's just how you attack it. I think
how you perceive it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way you did it and the way you kind of created your mindset to go forth with that move. Ultimately benefited you in the end, and up until next year, I think. Like,
yeah, for sure. And it's still open. I think that change really does start at the nuclear level. Like, it starts with the individual. Like, one person. You can make this small little change in your life, and that can lead to other things. Like, you just don't even know where the possibilities end. So, and even now, like, I'm coming up on my last year of residency. By this time next year, I'll, hopefully, God willing, know what the next step is going to be. But right now, it's completely open.
It's still up in the air.
It's still completely open.
And I think that's exciting.
It is super exciting.
Yeah.
Like,
exciting.
Am I going to come back to San Antonio? Am I going to find something in Austin? Am I going to find something in a different state entirely? I just don't even know. It's just, it's completely open to interpretation. So I think that's kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah.
That is cool.
It can go so many different routes from here. So, Well, I appreciate you for finally getting the chance to
come
and talk. Like you brought up some really good points. It's really cool to get like a. I mean, obviously, I hear from your side of things pretty often about like work and stuff, but I think a lot of people will benefit from our conversation. And
yeah, absolutely. I want to. Yeah, thanks for having me. I want to encourage people to continue to conduct themselves safely. I think that there's still a lot of danger in what's happening in the world right now. So I would encourage people to keep their health and their loved ones' health at the top of their priorities and act in their accordance with their best interests.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, there's a lot of things happening out there right now, and regardless of who you are or what your beliefs are, I think it's important that you put an emphasis on that, right?
Absolutely.
We're all in this together, friends.
Very important. Yeah. Very important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a good one. Anything else you have to say, Elijah?
You pretty much covered that one. Pretty solid.
Pretty solid.
Pretty all-encompassing right
All right, guys. So every platform, we'll have it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We'll actually put some clips on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook. Yeah. Make sure to give us a follow there. Give us a like, subscribe. Again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, man.
I'm really glad we're able to do this in person and get this thing up and running. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate y'all having me.
Thanks.